American Express plans to update more than 40 cards, Apple Card shared a bunch of details, and we're seeing more luxury benefits on some American Express cards. This and more in today's roundup. Big favor before we dive in is to give this a thumbs up to help with the algorithm, and if you know anyone else that might benefit, share this with them. Starting with American Express, we might be seeing a big wave of updates. This is due to a comment their CFO made during their earnings call. In 2024, we expect to exit the year with some further momentum. We currently have plans to refresh more than 40 products globally next year. One big focus is their premium value propositions. And to be fair, the 40 card number is globally. I expect maybe only 20% of that being the US. That's still 8 cards though. On the business side, there's 3 obvious candidates. Last week, we talked about the Business Platinum and how a lot of their credits are expiring towards the end of 2024. There were also comments by the American Express team confirming these changes. Okay, so that's one. The Business Green is another one that feels broken to me and needs an update. Right now, the card doesn't really make sense, it doesn't really fit anywhere, so it would be a good update. Hilton Business is another one that we know is in the queue. The reason for this is because all the personal Hiltons got updated late last year, and the Hilton Business did not. At a minimum, they're getting a new card design, and even if they don't increase the annual fee, they might change the credits a little bit. Right there is 3. Maybe a bit of a dark horse, but I think Delta cards would be interesting. The rationale being that Hilton as well as Bonvoy updated their cards, and it kind of makes sense for Delta to do the same. Delta has updated their reserve cards from 450 to 550, so that already has changed, but there still is room for the Gold, Delta Gold, and also the Delta Platinum. I would not be surprised to see the Delta Gold jump from, let's say, $99 to $150. In order to keep people happy, maybe they add a $25 Delta flight credit every 6 months. Just something that doesn't hurt as much and doesn't make you feel as bad, but still forces you to fly Delta, which is a win for them. I also expect the same thing for the Delta Gold business. To me, it would make sense for the Delta Platinum to jump up from $250 to maybe $295 or even $325. Easy way to counteract this is to add a $25 credit every quarter. Ideally, we do see more unique benefits and maybe ways to earn additional companion certificates, but otherwise, these seem fine. That's 4 Delta cards with the 3 business cards we already talked about, that's 7. Last one I think might be in the upgrade cycle are the Gold card or the Platinum card. The Platinum was pretty standard for a long time and got a major update in 2017, which included Uber and Saks credits. Also a bump up in the annual fee from $450 to $550. At the same time, more people, including myself, actually now wanted the card because it was easier to justify. 4 years later in 2021, they updated it again to what we currently have, and from $550 to a $695 annual fee. More credits, a bigger coupon book, but also more people liking the card. If we continue with that 4-year cycle, that would be 2025. I do think that they might have this after and separate from a lot of the other ones, just to keep it distinct. The rationale being that the Platinum is their flagship card, and you generally want to have that being its own marketing campaign and news cycle. In the same way that the iPhone is announced by itself, while they'll bunch together a lot of other things like iPads and MacBooks. That's actually why I think the Gold card is next, because it's in a weird spot. In 2018, it was updated, and in an amazing way, from a $195 annual fee to $250, but adding a ton of credits. In January 2022, they swapped out the $100 airline fee credit for a $10 per month Uber credit. That was technically an update, but it didn't really feel like it because annual fees stayed the same and just not that consequential. It felt a bit more like a hot swap, so I do think there are further changes on the table. If I had to guess, I think the annual fee goes from $250 to $325. Even if they keep the $10 per month Uber credit and $120 dining, $10 per month, I think they could add a $10 per month new partner, so that's $120, $120, $120 for $316 credits. The main draw for them is that the card is a lot easier to justify for their target demographic, $316 credits for only a $325 annual fee. It makes it a keeper for a lot of people, and for the ones maybe that don't get value, they'll probably still try to mentally justify it. For me though, it better not be a Walmart Plus credit or Clear credit, because otherwise I'm not going to be happy. Make it something quantifiable that is not easily replaced with another credit. I would be curious what you'd like to see or what you wouldn't want to see, and what cards you think are getting updated. All predictions, and I could be completely wrong, but the timing feels right. I think if changes do happen, it's going to feel great for some people, but other people might not get value. So for example, I love the new credits and the coupon book, but a lot of people hate this. If you like things more straightforward, then technically the older cards before updates have been a lot better. With that said, if you do want to learn about any of these cards before maybe any potential updates, and you want to support the channel, we do have links on the website, asksebby.com, and also down below in the description box. Make sure the links are competitive and that the cards make sense for you, but otherwise it is a huge way to support the channel, so thank you guys in advance. Speaking of American Express, their cards compare pretty well with the Apple Card given the new details we have. And by all means, the Apple numbers are pretty good, and it's just nice to see inside the black box. They launched the card back in 2019, and 5 years later, we can see how it's blossomed. They run pretty deep with more than 12 million cardholders. Users have earned over $1 billion in daily cash from their spend just last year. Reminder that the card earns 3% back on Apple purchases and select merchants when you use Apple Pay. Not too bad of a list here. You have Uber, Walgreens, Exxon, Nike, and a ton of other ones. You get 2% on everything else when you use Apple Pay, so tapping with your phone, and then 1% on everything else when you use the card. And I guess also if you use the card online. Okay, so how much did people spend in order to earn $1 billion in rewards? We don't have exact numbers, but we can estimate. Assuming that everyone was playing extremely non-optimally and actually swiped their cards for everything, then you're looking at $100 billion in spend total per year, which is $8,333 per user per year. If instead people were primarily using it with Apple Pay, then that's $50 billion in total spend, or about $4,167 per user per year. The most likely case I think is going to be a blended rate, probably around 2.5%, so Apple Pay as well as Apple purchases. About $3,333 in spend per year, which feels pretty reasonable. These are pretty good numbers, but they pale in comparison to American Express. For example, Delta's numbers are available and they do pretty well. It's estimated that spend on Delta cards exceed $268 billion per year. There's about 7.5 million Delta cardholders. Less cardholders, but they do spend more money. Doing the math, you're looking at about $36,000 in average spend per Delta card. And to be fair, a lot of this is probably not evenly distributed. A lot of the spend is probably business owners and also higher income cardholders who spend a ton on their Delta Reserve and Reserve business cards. It's not unusual for this group to spend their way to Platinum or Delta status with Delta. Okay, so why is Apple releasing this information when they're generally pretty secretive? My guess is that they're shopping vendors and looking for a new partner. Goldman Sachs has been trying to get out of the deal with Apple, and Apple wants a new partner, so it kind of works out. About a month or two, I asked the community who they thought would be the new partner. Amex led at more than 40%, and then Synchrony was at about 26%. I would be curious if you think American Express is still going to be the one that takes over the Apple Card. It is interesting because they're one of the few financial institutions that can actually take the savings account holders. One big focus they mentioned was that they had $10 billion in deposits, and a lot of it being people who sign up for the card in order to get this account. As of filming, Apple Card currently offers 4.5% for their high yield account. American Express currently has a public high yield savings offer of 4.35%. These are numbers that are in the same ballpark, especially so when you compare it against big banks like Chase, Bank of America, or Wells Fargo. Apple probably wants to find a partner that can take both products, and American Express is actually in that position, making it feasible. It should be interesting to see how the pieces fall if the savings account is in play. Speaking of APYs, Moomoo has a pretty good offer right now. They have a promotion where you get 8.1% APY and up to 15 free stocks. You get 5.1% APY for the account and then an extra 3% for the first 3 months as a new customer. If you sign up and deposit $100, you get 5 free stocks in total, and then if you deposit $1,000, it's 15 stocks in total. They are a member of FINRA and also SIPC, so you're covered for up to $500K, including $250K for cash. If you do want to check it out and get the elevated APY and also the free stocks, I'll put a link down below or go to asksebi.com/Moomoo. Finishing off, American Express just added a new watch partner. This is going to seem stupid to a lot of people, but it makes a lot of sense. I would also not be surprised if we eventually see a modified version of this for Platinum cardholders. Right now, the luxury watch buying experience is pretty broken. A lot of this is hugely driven by the brand and also whether it's limited edition. For example, if you want an Omega or a Grand Seiko, both great companies and who have great watches and technical watches, you can pretty much get anything you want by walking into the store. So you can walk in and buy it, but immediately after you buy it, you're losing about 20 to 30% off the lot. These are great watches by all means, but they're also considered below list. It means that the market value of the watch is below the list price. The main exceptions are going to be limited edition ones like the 50th Snoopy and also James Bond runs. So for those ones, Omega would expect a purchase history. The easiest way to think of it is like a quota that you need to hit in terms of spending in order to have the right to buy a watch. It makes sense, but it's also stupid. It has gotten better though because prices have dropped a lot recently, and for example, with Rolexes, back in the day, Datejusts were pretty easy to get, and they became impossible for a certain duration of time, and now they're a lot easier again. Instead of laughing you out of the room, it might be a few months or maybe even 1 month. And some people have been able to get it with no spend or purchase history, which is nice. No one really wants to buy junk in order to have the right to spend more money. Still though, a lot of other Rolexes like day dates as well as Submariners are a lot harder. The problem though is that there are a lot of people that don't want to play games. If they want something, they want to buy it. That's why I'm a bit surprised that American Express is only now teaming up with a top Rolex retailer to launch a Centurion watch program to offer VIP access to services. If anything, a bit of me thought that this was already a thing on the back end that was super secret that people didn't know about. If you have people with Centurion cards that are happy to spend maybe $2 million a year to get invited in higher cost of living cities, then letting them buy a Rolex that they want probably makes sense, especially because they might be return shoppers for even more expensive and rare items. In late January, they did a launch for the Centurion watch program in the Centurion Clubhouse in New York. They also had in-person shopping sessions and also a ton of watches there. Okay, so why are they finally doing this now instead of having this before? All it really took was for demand to tank for them to start caring and partnering up. Watches of Switzerland cut sales and growth forecasts earlier this month, and their stock plunged by more than a third. A big part of this is softening demand with luxury timepieces, and also the fact that Rolex bought their rival. Call me crazy, but I'd happily let someone with a Centurion card buy a Submariner, a Daytona, pretty much anything that would otherwise be considered hard to get, because they're probably going to buy the 100K, 200K watches. The ones that are otherwise harder to sell that you have to do a lot more work for. The current watch market strategy is to force people to buy stuff they don't want to have the right to buy stuff they actually want. This new strategy is to let people buy things they want and then try upselling to ultra premium options due to building good rapport. There also does seem to be additional perks for the Centurion program. There is a 10-day trial, meaning that you can test out the watch and use it for 10 days before you make the final purchase. Hopefully this ends up coming to platinum cards, but there are a lot more of us. Still though, I do see them doing a mini version of this, maybe that has less perks, maybe less rare watches, but you can probably still do something for this group. It makes sense to me, but curious what you think. Again, if you want to learn about cards, we have links on the website, asksevi.com, and also down below in the description box. If you made it at this point, leave a watch emoji in the comments down below, and I'll try to heart it and also respond. A few questions for you. Number 1, which American Express cards do you think are going to get updated? Number 2, are you surprised about the Apple Card numbers? And number 3, which niche benefits would you want to see on the Platinum Card? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Big favor, give us a thumbs up, consider subscribing, but otherwise, hope you liked it. See you next time. Okay, gonna try to get back on the hill because there's a lot of snow. It's snowing really, really hard. Some great powder. See you guys.